Portfolio optimization. Wow, that's a big topic. Okay. So when you think of a portfolio, think of it as a living thing. It's a living creature. It evolves and changes. It starts as a baby and as it gets older, it changes. And we as financial advisors, and as we think about it, we need to, as we get especially into that magic 40s-ish period, and especially as you get into your early 50s, we need to start making some changes to the portfolio. To A, you want to grow it, and we'll talk more about growth, and B, you want to preserve it. And so that gets into a whole nother realm of conversation of what's the right way to do it with the right amount of risk for that individual. And no two people are alike. I remember my mother and my father would always tell me, Charlie, you learn in your 20s and your 30s, and then you earn in your 40s and 50s. So you do your education, you do all that stuff early on, and then your 40s or 50s, it's time to see a financial advisor and start thinking about how, when you retire, what's going to be there for you, and that you have the right balance and mix for your risk tolerance.
I love that anecdote because that's exactly what the show is all about, right? It's about like folks that have grinded their way through those learning years, right? And they've been spending money on their kids, their homes, and they've been doing all the right things, right? Potentially maxing out their 401k, they have 529s, HSAs, but now they're in their 40s and 50s, and they're staring down the barrel of a gun, which is retirement, and saying to themselves, have I done enough? And now that I have this potential nest egg or potential lump of money, or even if not, even if you're far away from retirement financially, right? It's that now the rubber hits the road, if you will. So let's talk a bit more about, and I get this is complicated, right? Because everyone has a different story, right? But let's talk more about the idea of capital preservation and as it relates to a portfolio, especially again, someone in their 40s, their 50s. What do you mean by capital preservation?
Sure. So you are going to need some kind of an income stream or assets available when you retire. So as you get into your 40s and certainly into your 50s, you want to be thinking about, how do I dial down the risk some? Not all, that gets into the growth part, but some. And then as you get even older, you want to dial it down more. And that would be things like taking a few more bonds in your portfolio, thinking about inflation, maybe having some tips in your portfolio, switching from aggressive growth stocks or dialing down aggressive growth equities into maybe more dividend and value oriented. That, the old adage, when you have the, really aggressive super growth stocks, and you can throw NVIDIAs and Microsofts out there, when you're an expensive stock and you're trading high, it hurts a lot falling out of the fourth story. Whereas if you're a value stock or a dividend stock, you're not expensive. So, you might fall out of the first story. You won't hurt yourself as much. And that really goes to that capital preservation and obviously that mix between stocks and bonds. But as you get into your 40s and your 50s, you're going to want to start thinking about a little less aggressive on the equities, a little more, a little beefier on the bond portfolio. And now in today, many of us have the ability to invest in alternatives too.